There's a lot of basketball yet to be played. I don't want to do what I usually do, and that's get ahead of my skis one way or the other. I've already gotten ahead of my skis a little bit that the Bearcats were going to be heading to the Final Four. But man, oh man, after what we saw against Villanova, Cats have some serious issues, man.
So, 14 of the top 25 teams lost this past week that were in the top 25. We're missing Dan Skillings. I want everyone to remember that before we just jump ship. I saw in the group text, maybe we suck. Maybe we're terrible. This was a horrific game. Do not get me wrong. It was awful. I thought we got out-coached by Neptune, Kyle Neptune, who has made Villanova essentially a dumpster fire. We got out-coached and we got outplayed. Didn't make adjustments where we needed to make them. We could not hit a shot to save our lives. Can't figure out a matchup zone. I get it. We can't hit the panic button. It's December 3rd. We're missing arguably our best guy. He would have made a world of difference against Villanova. Either way, this is insanely disappointing. I mean, you got to be really worried about Dayton and Xavier coming up because we better be ready to play, man. I can't do this again.
Here's the thing. We all forget this, and I'm just stating facts here. So if you want to come in and crucify me for Wes Miller hate, it's not hate. It's literally just stating facts. He's yet to do anything. Anything. Am I wrong saying that?
No. I would love to point out we had a couple Big 12 wins last year that were big, but nothing.
7-11.
Nothing of
a run in the NIT that involved a CMOS Lukosius deep three to get out of the first round. I'm not trying to bag on Wes. He's been awesome recruiting. He's been an awesome ambassador. I think he's going to be an awesome head coach here. But for his sake, Xavier and Dayton are massive games. I mean, the narrative will flip in this city to Travis Steele 2.0. We'll use an example right down the road if he doesn't start winning these games. They looked flat. They protected the basketball, only turned it over 6 times, but it didn't matter because out of the 60 shots they got up, they only hit 38%. They shot 30% from deep. They hit 6 of their 11 free throws with some abysmal attempts. Pretty sure they got out-rebounded. It was close. 33-32, they win the rebounding battle. So a strength of theirs was not necessarily a strength. It was pretty much neutral. Jizzle James, he had moments where he could create his own shot. He looked awesome. 19 points in the game, 4 assists, also has 4 rebounds. But, man, he left some open ones on the table there, finishing with a game-high 19. CMOS had 13. He struggled. 4 of 14, 3 of 9 from deep. There's a weakness. If the Bearcats do not run, do not create turnovers, because they only created 9 Villanova turnovers, and do not hit shots, they're not going to beat decent basketball teams. And Villanova's decent at best. Like, if you look at the name and you say, that's Villanova on the road, Chuck, that's a tough team. They've lost to everyone they've played. And that includes Columbia. That includes Virginia, who's coachless and not good. That includes St. Joseph's. So at best, Villanova is decent. Talented, but decent. It's a game you should have gone in and been competitive in. And really, it wasn't. Like, you never felt like Cincinnati was going to win that game. Villanova dictated the tempo. It was Neptune ball. And the rotations, man. Let's start there. This is not that deep of a team. 2 weeks ago, we thought it was, man. I thought some players were better than they were because of the competition. I always think that Arrington Page is not ready yet to be a big-time contributor. I think he's going to be good here. But he's not ready to be a big-time contributor, anchoring that second unit. And when you throw in a lineup of him, Reed, Hickman, Day Thomas, and a freshman, Tyler Betsy, when you cut the lead to 4 points, what are you doing? You got to run your guys out there. Unless CMOS physically walked over to Wes and said, I'm exhausted, I need a breather, you got to keep him in there. Not only that, it was like a 5-minute run where you know, they couldn't neutralize Villanova in that minute. In those few minutes, I thought that was one of the differences in the game, among many. It was just, UC didn't capitalize, man. They had opportunities. They didn't capitalize. Still a ton of season. I want to leave it at that. But this felt a lot like that Rhode Island game in 2016, where there was so much damn hype surrounding UC. A win and you get to play Duke. A win this time and you get to play, you know, a Xavier team undefeated in the top 25. I mean, do you drop out of the top 25 after that loss? I mean, hell, UConn stayed in it somehow, but not a good loss.
We don't deserve it. I mean, I think that's the first game we've had with a team in the top 100 in Ken Palm, and pretty much they dominated the game start to finish. It is incredible, though. I would love to hear what Wes has to say in the presser because somebody's got to have the balls to ask him. Explain the lineup.
No one's going to ask him.
Every time we got it within, I think we actually got it within 2 at one point. He subbed out everybody, like you said, like a hockey lineup, and put in Day Hickman, who could not figure anything out today. Tyler Betsy looked completely lost. Page, who you mentioned, couldn't do anything. And Josh Reed, who was the best probably out of those guys in there besides Day. That's who we say this all the time, Chuck. They're 18, 19, 20 years old. They don't need to – they can play it. They can play a 20-minute half easily, right? And that's what you do when we get the game within reach. You pull those guys out, then it ballooned back up to 8 points, and then we could never get it back to in range again. It's insanity to not have Jizzle, Seamoss, one of those two in the game at all times, especially when Skillings isn't here. I would love to know what Wes's thought process was there, especially with that 5. That makes no sense. Who's the playmaker?
The playmaker is Day Thomas.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, and he's
because Hickman's not a playmaker,
he's
man. This is back-to-back games where he showed you that he's not that, and I'm glad he's here. I hope he's rotational depth, but for anyone that thought Hickman was going to be one of the dudes, like, he's rotational depth, man. I've seen enough to say he's rotational depth, and that's what scares me, man. I thought 5 days ago this team was so damn deep going up and down the lineup. I thought you could do hockey-style subs at the Ohio State game. We were sitting next to each other. We saw that Day lineup come in, throw lobs to Page, and we're like, wow. We're like Kentucky. We could throw in Cauley Stein and Booker off the bench. Not so much, man. They only go 9 today. The bench is Page, it's Betsy, it's Thomas, it's Reed. So Dan Skillings is going to help by default. But you just need more minutes out of some of your stars, and you need some points in the paint. They had plenty of points in the paint from, obviously, Jizzle getting in the lane, finishing, and just takes in general. But in terms of back-to-the-basket scoring, Page goes for 0. Aziz Bandaogo goes for 3. Let's start there. Aziz Bandaogo. We got ourselves a little bit of an issue because that matchup zone and the three-quarter court press really kind of took us out of rhythm. There were no lobs. There were no dunking Bearcats. I think there may have only been 1 or 2 dunks in the game. It took us out of our flow. It proved that we need a buy of bad. The half court still stinks. And Aziz was borderline unplayable, man. But we don't have anyone else to play. And that's a problem. And that's why I guess you can go Dylan and Dan, 4 and 5, if you want to mix it up. You don't have Dan Skillings. Who are you going to go to the bench and bring in there? You know, a freshman Rayvon or CJ Frederick? Like, he did exhaust his options in that regard. I just think he should have rolled with his starters a little bit longer, even if they were exhausted. That's just the way I would have looked at it.
Tough night for the Aziz apologists out there because I got like 6 or 7 texts strictly about Aziz Bandaogo. I can't believe that Wes stuck with him. He looked completely incompetent. We had 0 blocks as a team. If the stats I'm looking at are right, which is that when's the last time that's happened? It looks like from the stat sheet I'm looking at 0 blocks. Aziz Bandaogo included in that, which is incredible. And the amount of times that we were feeding Aziz in that matchup zone, like it was like we were looking for him in the paint. What is Aziz Bandaogo going to do? We've seen if he's playing anybody that's relatively decent in the post, he is completely lost. He falls over, takes a terrible hook shot. It's not good. It's not pretty to watch. I don't want to see it. We were feeding him. It's like, dude, the Timberwolves won't even give the ball to Rudy Gobert, but we're force-feeding Aziz Bandaogo in the paint. I thought we should have switched out, put Mitchell at the 5, gone small. I don't care if Reed's going to play the 4. I'd take that over what we saw from an offensive side with Aziz. And like I said, he wasn't dominating the defensive side either. And I just wish Wes would realize that before there's 6 minutes in the game left and he put in Arrington Page instead of him. You got to make some adjustments based on how the game's being played, and he didn't do that. He got out coached. I'm sure he's going to be saying all the right things in the post game. We know Wes. He's going to be a politician up there and say, this is on me. I let these kids down. You know, he's going to do the whole 9.
Remember last year he did.
I just hope that he figures that out.
My favorite Wes quote, man. My favorite Wes quote last year is when he sat out there and he said, I don't mean to be a prick. I just hate losing. I mean, he was like a savage up there, just like his hair was everywhere. I hate losing. Um, he hates losing, man. And he hates losing this game because this is one that doesn't kill you on the resume. Quad what? Probably a quad 2 loss when it's all said and done. But I could see Villanova getting better as the season goes along with Dixon. I mean, he's a star and being someone that, wins 7, 8, 9 games in the Big East and is at least formidable and is not going to be some quad 3 loss. I mean, there's no such thing as a quad 3 loss on the road. Like, if you're playing a road game, it's pretty much a 1 or 2. Like, it's almost impossible to have a quad 3 loss.
Yeah, I mean, it could end up being a quad 1, in all honesty. And I really wish we would have decided to double team Dixon. I mean, what did he finish with? Dixon finished with 31. It was basically the Dixon and Brickus show. Brickus Dixon, what a name that is. Um, and we didn't really do anything. We continued to allow him to get the ball one-on-one in the paint. He did his up and under. We fouled him every damn time. They shot 17 free throws, shot it at an 82% clip. We shot 11 at 54%. Not going to cut it. On field goal percentage, Chuck, we shot 38% from overall and 30% from three. You're not going to win many games, man. And we had plenty of open looks too. Like you said, I know Jizzle went 2 for 6, but he missed some bad ones. Seamoss could not figure it out. I thought when he drilled that one in the kind of mid second half with a guy in his face, I was like, maybe he's going to go nuclear and get us out of this hole. Didn't happen. You got to play better, man. We got beat just straight up. There's not much I could say except for the refs refused to call travel. I don't know what was going on. Dixon was doing 9 steps LeBron style, and they refused to call anything.
We got our ass beat. I mean, we got handled. The
Yeah.
6 blocks from them and 0 from us. Now, I will say this. Offensive rebounding, even without Dan Skillings, we're still good at it. 13 rebounds, but I'd love to see the second chance points stats because it wasn't great. Cats do score 12 points off turnovers, only 4 of them fast break. That's not enough. They got to get steals. They got to get out in transition. You have to force more than 9 turnovers. The defense was all right, First half, it wasn't great, quite frankly. The rotations were terrible. Even when we did play good defense, we got the unlucky break to where it would squirt to an open shooter. He'd bury it. And it was just not they couldn't weather the storm, man. Villanova threw something at them differently than UC's seen all year. They took away the pick and roll completely. I mean, it was not there whatsoever with Villanova's zone. And UC had to shoot their way back into this game after a slow start, and they shot at 38% from the floor, 30% from three. So that brings up my next point. UC was the number 1 team from the field 5 days ago in the entire country. And I went on Twitter and I said, this is not a fluke. This team has high risers. They have finishers. They get easy shots by the bucket, a la dunks. They also have 3-point shooters, guys that can stroke it. Today, man, it looked like more of the same, and it kind of scares me. It takes a game against a formidable opponent to look up and down the roster and see that you have cracks, to realize that Connor Hickman is not Sean Kilpatrick, to realize that Arrington Page is not yet ready. He's still a sophomore. He's raw. To look at Tyler Betsy being a non-factor because he's a freshman at the end of the day. It's scared me a little bit. The silver lining is Dan Skillings is really good. Like maybe NBA ready after this season good. And you just lost a game without him. Does the committee will factor that in, right? Not that it should matter. Like if this team's on the bubble, we got bigger issues, man.
We do. We do. And I think Dan Skillings can solve a lot of problems. I'm just sitting here going, I mean, we basically played NKU with a formidable roster with that matchup zone. I don't know why every team that plays us wouldn't sit in a matchup zone. Because what it does is, it's tough to, even if you drive by a guy, there's going to be help side defense in the matchup zone. You're going to have to knock down shots. And although we shot the ball great when we were playing lower caliber opponents, with the ability for these guys, these athletes to close out, I don't know why guys when we get into Big 12 play, why the hell not play a matchup zone versus UC? It's proven to be pretty damn effective when we're up 2 points with 16 minutes left against NKU. And Villanova dominated start to finish. That's what I'm worried about. How are we going to beat this matchup zone? Because I'm going to guess that most coaches have watched some of this tape and they can't beat a matchup zone. So let's just throw that at them, see what they do.
Mitchell had some moments where he showed you that he can be effective in that matchup zone, especially if he could stretch it with the three. Hits a three, second of the season, second of his collegiate career. I don't think we saw him get to the line tonight at all. I just feel like we didn't see enough of Mitchell. I watched the entire 40-minute game, and I just feel like he was on the bench for too much of it. I'd love to see the final numbers. I don't know if you have the advanced metrics, but he should be 36 minutes out there, man. He just affects the game. You saw it with his mid-range J against the zone. I mean, you need more of him. Quite frankly, Josh Reed should have been playing more today. He was solid in his minutes out there. There should have been zero Connor Hickman in the second half. I mean, I texted you guys 3 minutes into the game, and I said, Hickman's struggling. Get him out of there. Did I not say it?
No, he was. You did say it. And Hickman was struggling. And for a
Put me
guy
on the
that is
sidelines, man.
apparently a lethal shooter, I mean, he had that one off that curl screen and missed it by 6 feet. It's just if he's not going to be able to knock down shots, I don't think he should play. The issue with what we saw today is he's got to play some minutes. He probably played too many. I'm trying to look up the official minutes because ESPN is horrific at that. All right, so here we go. So Jizzle James, 33, Seamoss, 33, Dylan Mitchell, 27, Bandego, 22, and Hickman, 23. Then you got Day with 22, Josh Reed, 16, Page, 16, and Betsy, 10. So, I mean, the starters played the majority of the game. There's no question. It felt like Aziz was out there for 40 based on what I watched, but he only played 22 minutes.
My big gripe,
he was ineffective.
It's not even getting Seamoss some rest there. It's just not leaving Mitchell in longer. Would you say 26 minutes?
27 minutes, and he only had 6 attempts. And when we had that little run where he hit the three and then he hit a little step back in the paint, that's when we looked like the most effective, was kind of playing through Dylan Mitchell. So I'd like to see more of him offensively, but the problem is I'm shocked they didn't just hack the shit out of him when he went up for that dunk. The guy shoots 5% from the line. So that's where you run into some situations. If he gets a good look, why not just hack him? He's got to figure that out. But yeah, 4 of 6 in a game where we shot the ball 38% from the field. You'd like to see a little more Dylan Mitchell there.
Well, you see most of his work in transition. You see the high flying above the rim, and the Duncan Bearcats were not the Duncan Bearcats today. They were the chucking and the missing. They shoot 26 threes. Villanova on the other side was pretty hot. They shoot 8 of 20. That's 40%. There's your difference in the game. Also 14 of 17 from the line. They get to the free throw line 6 more times than Cincinnati. They knock down 8 more attempts. The final score, an 8-point game. It's the razor's edge, man. It's the fine margins in this game, and it continuously bites this team and this coaching staff in the ass. We're not hitting the panic button. It's one game on the road against at the very worst, a quad 2 team. But it's the way they looked, man. It's the way they looked, and we thought we were better than this. We thought we were a top 10 team. Top 10 teams don't typically look like this.
I'll say this.
That's actually false.
Dan
top 10
Skillings
teams look like this all the time. We see top 10 teams lose some very egregious games. But I don't know.
Chuck.
Hop back on the skis.
It's a road.
It's going to be okay, but I'm pissed off.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, brother. I'm losing my goddamn mind over here. It's a Tuesday. I'm supposed to have a nice, relaxed night when we win this game by 15. I don't lose a dumbass bet that we all knew was going to lose. But I'll say this. When Dan Skillings, he's a great matchup zone beater because the key is obviously flashing to that elbow spot and having a playmaker there. Dylan Mitchell, you would hope, is kind of that guy at some point. He's not quite there yet from a playmaking standpoint. Dan Skillings, if he gets the ball at that elbow, he's going to find a play to make. He's not a great shooter, I know that, but he can shoot a 12-foot jump shot. He can find an open man. He's so lengthy. That's a zone beater right there, just by getting him in the middle of that zone. So we didn't have him. And hopefully we get him back soon. But I think that's going to make a world of difference for this roster, man. I hate to keep harping on that, but Dan Skillings is damn good, and we need him.
The thing is, coaches are so damn stubborn that they won't zone us. Like certain teams that refuse to go zone, they won't do it. Or they'll make the mid-game adjustment. But every team in the country, Xavier's going to zone us. They're going to zone us, and we're going to struggle with it if Skillings isn't back. Because it 100%, forget just neutralizing. It takes away the lob opportunities, and it forces you to drive and kick, which the Cats did, and they couldn't shoot. And I don't know if that's changing. I mean, look at who took the shots today. Mitchell knocks down his 1 3-point attempt. I wouldn't expect that. Lukosius was 33%, 3 of 9. He's not shooting 69% like he was a few weeks ago, but 3 of 9, 33%, not the worst shooting night in the world. Jizzle James has to start shooting better. Connor Hickman, if he's not hitting threes, I thought that was his role. 0 for 2 in the game. Clearly, I don't think Frederick's healthy enough, or they may have given him a stab out there. I mean, this is a game that could have used him, right?
If there's a zone defense out there, if Frederick's going to play in any game, it should be the games we're seeing a matchup zone.
You're using a scholarship
to knock
on
down
him.
A shot.
Like that's one thing I question with Wes. It's like you used the scholarship on Tolentino last year. Like at the end of the day, these things are valuable. We're finding out real time that this team is not that deep. Day Thomas goes 1 of 4 from 3 off the bench. Reed knocks down 1 of his 2. Page shoots 1 late, misses it. Tyler Betsy misses his only 3. I really thought that this team was going to be able to stroke it. And I still think there are going to be some nights like the Ohio State game. And it's going to start with defense first. Defense is always going to lead the offense with this team. But you muck it up with Cincinnati, you got a chance to beat them, even if you're the 60th best team in the country, like the Villanova Wildcats are. Next up is Howard. Then it's Xavier and Dayton. We got some intel from one of our buddies in the group chat. He says, during this 3-game stretch, that does not include Howard. Should we read it to the people on air? Here's what he says. He says, if the team goes 3-0 during this 3-game stretch, unfortunately, they're not going 3-0 because they already lost. So we would be elite if we went 3-0 during this stretch. We didn't. Go 2-1, we are a solid team. So beat Xavier, beat Dayton. We proved that we're a solid team. Go 1-2, we're bluffing. You lose 1-2 to Xavier and Dayton, we're all right. Go 0-3, we got a serious problem, man. You lose to Xavier and Dayton, which you can absolutely do. I mean, we never beat Xavier. Dayton's damn good, and we saw their fans take over the arena last year. But this narrative can flip in a hurry. And after the end of the Bearcats football season, the debacle, you got to win. You got to win Howard, obviously. Take care of business. Don't sleepwalk in that one. Kick their asses. And then you got to win Xavier. Because I'm telling you, I born and raised in the city of Cincinnati. Not even an alum. I just have loved this team since the day I've walked. If I know one thing about this fan base, we're loud, man. We're loud, and pitchforks will come out in a hurry. And it's not everyone. It's not the people that matter, but Wes's job this season is to keep the barbarians away from the gate. Keep the barbarians away from the gate. And I will be King Barbarian with the pitchfork, pissed off on this show if they cannot start winning these games. But here's the deal, man. The jerseys are still sick. We are still in a good spot. I mean, when you're ranked, you get a lot of wiggle room when it comes to making the NCAA tournament. We all know this. We can lose like 12 games, and we'll be good to go. But this is a team we thought was going to go like 26-5. I really thought so. And so did the ESPN metrics. And we already have one of our projected, it was actually 4 losses. We were 70% projected to win this game. They get trounced. Any final thoughts for the way out the door?
First, projections mean absolutely nothing. They're always wrong. Try betting the ESPN metric projections. You will be homeless before you know it. Listen, it's college basketball. These things happen on the road. It's unacceptable, no question. It's so early in the season. Do not jump ship. I just pray that Wes can figure out how to make adjustments. We need Dan Skillings back, and we got 2 massive, massive games. We got to get both, Chuck. After losing this one, we got to get Dayton, and we damn sure got to beat. I'm worried sick about Fremantle just dropping like 30 on us. I can't live with myself if that happens. So we got to figure something out. Wes has got to get these guys back in check. I still think this team can be elite. We're clearly not there yet, but let's not jump off the ship just yet. Stick with us. Stick with me and Chuck while we go through this roller coaster of emotions. This is not going to be last year. I refuse to believe that.
No, I think it's going to just take adjustments. I really do think that it's just some fine trimming around the edges. I thought there were moments where Day Day and Jizzle out there together looked good. Creating havoc and chaos is the way that this team's going to win. We saw it against Ohio State where it was just like, damn, they're big, they're fast, they're everywhere, they're in your face. And that team just did not show up today. It was timid, it was half court, it was not imposing the will, and it was letting Eric Dixon go for 31 points, 11 of 23. I mean, that guy's an All-American. If there's one takeaway that's positive from this game, it's that they just got to face a talent before Xavier. Whether it's a good team or not, it's a good player. And it's going to help them in the long run. It's going to help them in their film session for their next game. So still a lot of season left, but the Big East stands out there that love ragging on Cincinnati. And we know there's a lot of them. Not a lot of them, actually. Loud, though, in this town. They get their way tonight because Villanova kind of stinks. And Villanova made the Bearcats look like basura tonight. I know I said any final thoughts about 15 seconds ago, but is there anything else you'd like to add to that little monologue? Or would you like to just call it a night and not think about the Cincinnati Bearcats athletic program until Sunday?
No, I'm calling it a night. Silver lining is this game was at 6:30. It's not like 11:30 Eastern, so I can hopefully try to get some rest, maybe take some melatonin and sleep this one off. Until next time, Chuck.
Until next time, Houdini. Good to see you, chat. Thank you for chiming in. And if you missed some of the show, we'll see you on the audio podcast. Free and available wherever you get them. Chatterbox Bearcats. Next up, it's Howard on Sunday. We'll see you then.